Hi there, thrifty friends. Ken here, your thrifty apprentice. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to another Water Soluble Wednesday. In today's video, we are going to be painting this beginner-friendly tropical beach landscape scene. I am using New York Central 100% cotton, cold pressed 140-pound acid-free 5x7 watercolor block, which you can source from Jerry's Autorama. I'm using a studio palette I created, and it has different brands of paint in it. Mainly Soho Urban Artist Watercolors from the tube, which was formerly sold by Jerry's as one of their house brands. I think they only have the Soho Easy palette available now. Now, these tubes or paints were discontinued years back and have been out of buying rotation for a while. As a result, they got kind of precious to me, and I felt like it was time to start using them up. That's what this year is all about. Using up what I have and painting the things that I love to paint. Now, this palette also has some Reeves watercolors in it, a really decent student grade paint, normally available on the school level, but good practice paints nonetheless. I also have a Daniel Smith paint in here, Hooker's Green if I'm not mistaken, because I really wanted a green in this palette as I continue to build it to temporarily round it out. Now, this time lapse has a real-time tutorial available for Patreon members over on Patreon. Patreon membership includes access to the Just Keep Painting art series, a real-time video tutorial series that posts videos to Patreon once a month. Members have access to the Thrifty Reel, which is a series that posts periodically, giving members a behind-the-scenes look at the things coming out of the studio. Lastly, members get access to traceables for the harder paintings and illustrations we do here on YouTube. All these perks are at a low rate of $2 a month. Now, the videos are hosted on the YouTube platform. However, only Patreon members have access to those videos and traceables. So if you're looking for a more in-depth, detailed, instructional video to some of the time-lapse released here on YouTube, then you should give the Thrifty Apprentice Patreon a try. You can find the link in the video description alongside the link for the Etsy storefront and the link for my artist wish list, just in case you are looking for a different way to support the channel. That wish list was actually a suggestion from one of you, my wonderful viewers. Now, I'm using a reference photo from pixels.com for today's composition. However, I am only using it as a reference. It's not my intentions to copy the photo, rather use it as a guide for today's painting. I will be sure to link the reference photo in the video description for anyone who is interested. Now, at this point of the painting, we have jumped into painting in the rocks in the little hill peninsula that is coming out of the side of the painting. And this has been a mixture of burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, a little phthalo blue. Now, I know I kind of just jumped into describing the painting, but I did want to get some of those details told to you before the video ended. I'm actually using a number 8 flat synthetic golden Teclon brush to throw in those rocks and to draw in the trunk of those trees. I have found that flat brushes work really well when I'm trying to put in rocks. They really help with the shape. Now, at this point, I'm mixing up the different greens in order to paint in the top of my palm trees. Now, I did make sure that those greens were mixed from the new gamboge and the ultramarine, or the new gamboge and the phthalo blue that had already been using throughout the composition, which, if I was just going to give a color list, it would be ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, new gamboge, which is the yellow. There is some burnt sienna in this picture. There is also yellow ochre in this picture. I don't think I used any other colors other than those. And I used those to mix any additional shades I would need that was not a part of that color combination. And as I tell you all the time, that was done simply to keep harmony. Now, as I painted in the palm fronds, if you notice, the trees that were further off in the distance towards the horizon line, I really just painted in the branches. I didn't actually paint in each individual leaf that would have been on one of those palm branches. That's because the farther away from us things are, the less detail you would actually see. Now, as we move further towards the foreground or towards the bottom of the paper, you'll notice that my tree trunks got bigger and you were able to see more detail in the actual palm fronds as I put them on. Those branches that ended up hanging over the edge of the paper being the closest ones to us, the ones where you can't actually see the trunk, those are the biggest ones. And I made sure to add lots of details to that because they would be the closest thing to the viewer and they would contain a lot of information for the eye. Now, when it comes to those palm fronds closer to us, I was sure to put in lighter shades of green because I wanted more warmth in those colors for the things that were closer to us. Here, I took a deeper shade of the burnt sienna and the yellow ochre mix, added a little ultramarine blue to it to get a more darker color for that beach sand to sort of give it the impression that it may have been wet around the base of where the trees are, around the rocks, and as the rocks go into the water. Now, as I said earlier, I actually shot this as a real-time tutorial for Patreon. So you'll actually see me kind of talking and instructing throughout the video, but that's what's going on when you see me pointing and explaining. I decided to go in and throw in a little bit more saturation into my water. In order to do this, I just mixed the original color that I painted the sea part of the composition with and added a little bit more phthalo blue to it in order to darken it. That way I would have some more saturation. I used ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, more ultramarine blue in order to get a really dark gray. And that's what I'm using to go in and base in the shadow side of my rocks to put in a little extra shadow up under the rocks, especially around the part to show where they would meet the water and be wet. And then I wanted to put some shadows back over in the little hill that contained all of my palm trees, just for a little bit more definition on those rocks. I mixed a little bit more green into that, and I threw in a few grass blades just at the base, right where some of those rocks meet the sand, just to add a little bit more to the imagery of the picture. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit some of these places with some bleed proof. Not that you would see many reflections, but I just felt like it added a little bit to the composition, and I also added some of that into the actual palm trees. Now here I'm going to spray some texture into the beach and then some white into the water for splashes. That's going to bring us to an end, guys. I hope you liked everything. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe. Check the video description and just keep painting.